Have you ever wondered why some people seem to win effortlessly while others strive for years and fail? What if I told you that the key is not luck, but something far more powerful, something within you? I once met a man who had tried for years to win the lottery. He played every week, studied patterns, consulted experts, yet nothing changed. Desperate, he came to me, exhausted and defeated. "What am I doing wrong?" he asked. I smiled and told him, "You do not win by seeking, you win by knowing." He looked at me, puzzled, so I explained, "Stop thinking of the lottery as something out there that you must chase. It is already done, the wealth, the abundance. It is already yours if you dare to claim it." I told him to imagine, not the numbers, not the draw, but the moment after his win. I had him feel the check in his hand, hear the excitement in the voices around him, sense the thrill of knowing he was now a winner. "But how will it happen?" he asked. "The how is not your concern," I replied. "The state of the wish fulfilled is all that matters. Enter it, live in it, and let the world conform to your assumption." He did exactly as I instructed, and just weeks later I received a letter from him. He had won, not once but twice. Not because of luck, not because of effort, but because he finally understood reality is shaped by what we accept as true. So I ask you now, do you dare to accept wealth as already yours? Will you persist in the assumption of abundance? Because if you do, if you abandon all doubt and rest in the certainty of your success, then my words to you are simple. It is done. There is no power outside of you. What you see, what you touch, what you experience, all of it is merely the shadow cast by an unseen force. That force is imagination. The world you walk through is nothing but a reflection of what you hold within. The house you live in, the job you work, the people you meet, all are shaped by the contents of your mind. There is no objective reality separate from the assumptions you entertain. To change your world, you must change the images you persistently hold within. A man once approached me, frustrated and weary. He had done everything to improve his life, yet nothing seemed to work. He struggled, fought and labored, but his efforts only brought more hardship. "Tell me," he asked, "why do I see no change? I have done all I can." I answered him simply, "Have you imagined the change?" He looked at me confused. "Of course," he said, "I think about it all the time. I dream about it. I hope for it." I shook my head. "No," I said, "you think of it, but have you assumed it? Have you entered the state of its fulfillment so fully that it is the only reality you know?" He was silent. Like so many, he believed the world was something separate from himself, something outside, something fixed. He believed that change required effort, that circumstances had power over him. But I tell you, the only power that exists is within. The moment you accept an idea as true, the world has no choice but to conform. A man who is poor does not remain poor because of the economy, nor because of lack of opportunity. He remains poor because he assumes poverty. His mind is so fixed upon his current state that he cannot see beyond it. Every day he reinforces his assumption with words, with emotions, with unconscious agreement, and so the world reflects his belief. But if this man were to assume wealth, if he were to close his eyes and feel himself in possession of vast sums of money, if he were to walk in the conviction that he is already rich, then all things would move to make it so. The world is a mirror, reflecting back not what you want, but what you are. You may say, "But I cannot simply pretend to be something I am not." And yet I tell you, this is precisely what you have always done. Were you not once a child? And did you not assume the role of an adult long before the world recognized you as one? You imagined yourself older, more capable, more independent, and without effort, the years conspired to make it so. At what moment did you become the person you are today? It was not a single event, not a day marked on a calendar, but a gradual acceptance of a new reality. This is how all things unfold. Imagination is not fantasy. It is the blueprint of creation. Every invention, every work of art, every great achievement first existed within the mind of its creator before it took form in the world. The man who builds a house does not begin with wood and stone. He begins with a vision. He sees in his mind's eye the walls, the roof, the rooms. And because he holds this vision with certainty, the materials and the labor appear to make it real. Without the image, there is nothing to build. So it is with your life. What you desire exists now, in the unseen realm of imagination. But it is not enough to see it. You must enter it. You must dwell within it so completely that you forget the former state. Just as a traveler arriving in a foreign land quickly adjusts to new surroundings and forgets the place he has left behind, so too must you abandon the world that no longer serves you. You do not need to struggle, nor do you need to persuade anyone. The world is not your master, it is your servant. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you give the command, and reality obeys. The change may not come in the way you expect, nor at the time you predict, but it will come, for the law cannot fail. Do you wish to win the lottery? Then ask yourself, who is the man who has already won? How does he think? How does he walk? How does he feel? Do not place yourself outside of him, looking in. Become him. Adopt his state of mind. Accept his ease, his joy, his certainty. Feel his reality as your own. And soon the world will reflect it back to you. But you must persist. The world will attempt to pull you back, to show you evidence of the old state, to tempt you into doubt. But I tell you, remain faithful to the unseen. What you imagine, if held with conviction, will solidify into fact. It is law, unchanging and absolute. So do not wait for proof before you believe. Do not seek signs before assuming the state. The sign will follow the assumption, not the other way around. The moment you dare to accept your desire as already yours, reality begins to shift. It must, for imagination is the only reality. And so I ask you now, what will you choose to imagine? Because whatever you accept as real within, you will soon experience without. Everything that you call reality is merely the crystallized result of a former assumption. The world you see, the circumstances you face, the experiences you encounter, these are not independent forces acting upon you, but the outpicturing of the state you have accepted as true. You may believe that winning the lottery is a matter of chance, that wealth is something granted to the fortunate few, but I tell you, the outcome is decided long before the numbers are drawn. You do not win when you receive the prize, you win. The victory happens first in consciousness, and only then does it take form in the world. A man once came to me desperate for change. He had played the lottery for years, yet he had never won. He studied past results, followed so-called strategies, even sought guidance from others, hoping that someone could reveal the secret to success. Yet the more he tried, the further he seemed from his goal. He could not understand why. He believed in luck, he believed in numbers, but he had never considered the one great truth, that reality conforms only to what is assumed to be true. I asked him, have you ever truly seen yourself as a winner? He hesitated. Of course, I want to win, he said. I shook my head. Wanting is not assuming. Do you know yourself as a winner, or do you merely wish it was so? He had spent years hoping, yearning and chasing, but he had never lived in the state of having already won. And so he had been playing the role of the man trying to win, not the man who has won. His thoughts, his feelings, his inner conversations were all in alignment with lack, not with abundance. And so the world faithfully reflected his assumption back to him. The secret is simple yet profound. If you wish to win, you must no longer see yourself as one who desires wealth, but as one who already possesses it. The assumption precedes the fact. The mind precedes the manifestation. All things must be believed before they are seen. When you close your eyes, do not see yourself as someone checking a ticket, anxiously awaiting the result. That is the consciousness of doubt. Instead, place yourself beyond the moment of victory. See yourself after you have won. Feel the certainty, the ease, the gratitude. Let it be so real within you that the outer world has no choice but to conform. The man listened carefully, yet I could see that his mind still fought the idea. But how can I convince myself of something that hasn't happened yet? He asked. I smiled. Has it not happened? He looked at me, confused. You are judging by appearances, I said. You believe that reality exists only in what you can see and touch. But everything first exists in the unseen before it takes form. When a tree grows, did the seed not already contain the pattern of the tree within it? When a building rises, was it not already complete in the mind of its architect before a single brick was laid? Your win exists now, not in the outer world, but within you. The question is, will you claim it? I told him to go home and assume the feeling of already having won. Not to hope, not to wish, but to live in the certainty that the money was his. I told him to fall asleep each night, feeling the joy of his new reality. To walk through the day carrying the quiet confidence of one who knows his fortune is secured. To let go of all anxiety, all effort, and to rest in the knowledge that what is assumed must come to pass. Weeks later, I received word from him. He had won, not once, but multiple times. The moment he had ceased striving, the moment he had abandoned the belief that he needed to win, he had allowed himself to be the winner. And the world, in perfect obedience, reflected that state back to him. You may believe that life happens to you, but the truth is, life happens through you. The events that unfold are only the echoes of past assumptions. If you persist in the belief that you are waiting for your fortune, then you will always be waiting. But if you dare to assume that it is already done, that it is already yours, then the world will shift in ways unseen to make it so. Your imagination is the scriptwriter, and reality is the stage upon which it plays. You cannot win while doubting. You cannot receive while questioning. To the world, a man who declares himself rich before the evidence appears may seem delusional. But I tell you, the truly delusional are those who believe that circumstances shape consciousness. It is not the outer world that changes the inner. It is the inner world that gives rise to the outer. The law does not fail. It does not bend to luck, nor does it recognize struggle. It responds only to belief. If you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and persist in that assumption, it must become fact. There is no other way. So I ask you now, do you dare to see yourself as you wish to be? Can you let go of effort and surrender to the certainty of already having? Because the moment you do, the work is done. The victory is won. And soon you will find yourself holding in your hands what you first held in your imagination. Everything you desire, everything you wish to experience already exists within you as a possibility. But possibility alone is not enough. It is only when a possibility is felt as real that it moves from the unseen to the seen. This is the great secret. Feeling is the key to creation. It is not enough to think about wealth, success, or happiness. One must feel as though these things are already present. The world is nothing but the reflection of your inner state, and your feelings shape that state more powerfully than words or actions ever could. To understand this, you must first recognize that feeling is not separate from experience. It is experience. A man who feels rich even when he has not a single coin to his name will soon see that wealth take form in his life. A man who feels loved even in solitude will inevitably draw to himself the relationships that reflect his inner state. This is not speculation, nor is it wishful thinking. It is law. The world moves in obedience to what you deeply, sincerely feel to be true. You may believe that your emotions are responses to external events, that you feel happy when something good happens or sad when faced with loss, but this is an illusion. It is not the event that creates the feeling, it is the feeling that calls forth the event. Observe your own life and you will see the truth of this. When you have felt confident and assured, have you not noticed how opportunities and successes seem to flow effortlessly toward you? And when you have felt fearful or doubtful, have you not found that obstacles and disappointments arise with equal ease? The outer world is only the mirror of your inner state, and that state is determined by feeling. This is why effort and struggle so often fail to produce results. A man may work tirelessly toward his goal, but if he secretly feels himself to be a failure, his efforts will only reinforce his assumed state. The world cannot give to him what he denies within himself. He may say, "I will succeed," but if beneath those words he feels unworthy, he will continue to experience failure. His conscious desire may be for wealth, but if his feeling is one of lack, then lack will persist. To change one's life, one must change one's feeling. And to change a feeling, one must assume the state of the wish fulfilled. This is done not by wishing, not by hoping, but by living in imagination as though the desired state is already true. If a man desires riches, let him not dwell upon his empty pockets. Let him instead close his eyes and feel the weight of wealth in his hands. Let him walk the streets with the quiet assurance of one who has all he needs. Let him wake each morning and fall asleep each night with the feeling of security, of abundance, of knowing that all his needs are met. If he does this with sincerity, the world must reshape itself to reflect his inner transformation. Feeling is the secret, because it is the bridge between thought and reality. A thought without feeling is powerless. It is a shadow without substance. But a thought that is felt as real takes on life, and what has life within must express itself without. Consider the difference between a fleeting wish and a deep conviction. A man may casually wish to be successful, but if he feels no deeper connection to that wish, it remains distant, unreal, and ineffective. But let that same man assume the feeling of success. Let him carry himself with the assurance of one who has already achieved, and his world will bend to his assumption. This principle applies to all things, great and small. If you wish to heal, feel health. If you wish to be loved, feel love. If you wish to prosper, feel abundance. Let no external circumstance dictate your state, for the outer world is only a reflection of the inner. If you wait for change before you allow yourself to feel differently, you will wait forever. You must first feel the change, and then the world will move to reflect it. Many make the mistake of believing that action alone will bring results. They strive, they plan, they work, but without the proper feeling, their efforts are in vain. The most powerful action is useless if it is not accompanied by the feeling of already having. But when feeling is aligned with desire, even the smallest action is infused with power. A man who assumes the feeling of already being what he wishes to be will find that even his most casual words and actions are imbued with a creative force. He will make choices, take steps, and meet people that align perfectly with his assumption, often without even realizing it. There is no need to concern yourself with the how. That is not your task. Your task is only to assume the feeling, to rest in the certainty that what you desire is already yours. When you do this, the means will present themselves naturally. The world will shift, events will unfold, and what once seemed impossible will become inevitable. The law is simple. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and it must come to pass. Do not wait for proof before you believe. Do not look to the world for validation. Your feeling is the evidence, and it is the only evidence you need. The moment you accept the reality of your desire within, the outer world has no choice but to make it manifest. Nothing in this world happens by chance. Every event, every circumstance, every so-called coincidence is the direct result of a state that was first assumed within. The world you see before you is merely the outpicturing of the states you have occupied. A man does not suddenly find himself in wealth, nor does another suddenly find himself in lack. Each is simply experiencing the harvest of the states they have nurtured. The state always comes first, and the event follows without fail. You may believe that your current reality is the cause of your state, that you feel poor because you have little, or that you feel lonely because you are alone. But this is an illusion. The truth is, you have little because you feel poor, and you are alone because you feel lonely. The state precedes the event, not the other way around. The external world only echoes the assumptions you persist in. A man who constantly assumes the state of failure will find himself surrounded by failing circumstances. A man who assumes the state of success will see the world reshaped to confirm his assumption. Everything in life is drawn to you or repelled from you based on the state you dwell in. It is not enough to momentarily entertain a desire. To truly change your reality, you must abandon the state that no longer serves you and fully occupy the state of your wish fulfilled. The moment you do, the world begins to shift. New people, opportunities, and experiences will move toward you as naturally as water flows downhill. But you must first move inwardly. The state you assume determines your reactions, your thoughts, your emotions. You may say, I want wealth, yet if you still react to life as a poor man, you remain in the state of lack. You may say, I desire love, but if your actions are born from the state of loneliness, you only deepen that experience. What you are conscious of being is what you express in the world. You cannot be aware of wealth while feeling lack. You cannot be aware of success while indulging in thoughts of failure. You must claim the new state as yours, occupy it fully, and refuse to be swayed by appearances. Many seek to change their world while clinging to their old state. A man may strive, plan, and labor, yet if he still sees himself as one who struggles, his work will only reinforce his struggle. Another may do little, yet if he assumes himself to be fortunate, opportunities will arise seemingly out of nowhere. The effort is not in doing, but in being. When you shift your state, everything else shifts automatically. To move into a new state, you must first define clearly what you wish to be. If you desire to be wealthy, you must ask yourself, what is the feeling of wealth? How does a wealthy person think? How do they walk, speak, and respond to life? The answers to these questions are not theoretical. They are the very essence of the state you must assume. When you close your eyes, do not see yourself as one who wants to be wealthy. That is the consciousness of lack. Instead, feel yourself already in possession of all you desire. Let that feeling become so real, so natural, that it becomes your new dwelling place. Your state is like a radio frequency. If you wish to hear music, you do not argue with the radio, pleading for it to play your desired station while leaving the dial unchanged. No, you simply tune to the correct frequency and the music appears. Likewise, if you wish to change your life, you must tune your consciousness to the state of your wish fulfilled. Do not concern yourself with how the world will rearrange itself to bring your desire to you. That is not your work. Your only task is to become inwardly the person who already has what you seek. Many believe that persistence means struggling to achieve a goal. But persistence is simply remaining faithful to a new state, refusing to return to the old. The mind will attempt to pull you back to familiar patterns, to remind you of past failures, to present evidence that contradicts your assumption. But you must remain steadfast. The moment you accept your new state as real, the world begins to conform. Doubt, fear, and anxiety are simply signs that you are slipping back into the old state. The key is to recognize them and immediately return to the feeling of already being what you wish to be. Some believe that their circumstances are too fixed, too difficult to change. They look at their present conditions and say, this is reality. But I tell you, what you call reality is nothing but a reflection of past states. The moment you assume a new state, a new reality begins to take form. It may not appear immediately, but it is already set in motion. Just as a seed once planted does not bear fruit overnight, so too does your new state require persistence. But if you remain faithful, if you refuse to return to the old, the harvest is certain. The world is but a mirror. It does not argue, it does not resist, it simply reflects. And so, if you do not like what you see, do not try to change the reflection, change the state from which it arises. Do not chase after things, do not struggle to manipulate circumstances. Instead, enter the state of already having. Feel it deeply, persist in it, and let the world do the rest. There is a belief ingrained in the minds of many that effort is the key to achievement, that struggle is necessary for success, and that only through tireless work can one attain what one desires. But this is a false premise, for all creation is finished, and nothing needs to be forced into existence. The only task is to align oneself with the reality already prepared, to accept it inwardly so that it may be expressed outwardly. The illusion of effort arises from the mistaken belief that man must make things happen, when in truth he need only assume they are already so. Effort implies resistance, and resistance is a sure sign that one is attempting to change the outer world without first changing the inner world. When you struggle, when you strive, when you push against circumstances, you declare that you believe those circumstances to be real and powerful. Yet, the outer world is but a reflection of the state within. No amount of external force can change a reflection while the original image remains the same. One who understands the law knows that effort is unnecessary, because the moment something is assumed, it is already secured. If you assume yourself to be wealthy, to be loved, to be successful, the world must conform. It is only when you doubt your assumption that you attempt to compensate with effort. But effort will never create what doubt has denied. True creation is effortless, for it is simply the acceptance of what already exists in the unseen. Consider how nature operates. The sun does not strain to rise, nor does the seed struggle to grow. They simply are, and in being they express their inherent nature. Likewise, when one assumes a new state, there is no need for struggle or strain. It is not a matter of forcing reality to change, but of recognizing that reality has already changed in consciousness, and therefore the outer world must follow. To believe that effort is necessary is to misunderstand the nature of creation. All things are states of consciousness, and what is assumed as real is effortlessly drawn into experience. If a man believes that success requires struggle, then struggle will be his portion. If he believes that wealth must be earned through hardship, then hardship will precede any wealth he attains. But if he understands that assumption alone is the creative act, then he will move through life with ease, knowing that what he claims inwardly must appear outwardly. Many live their lives pushing against circumstances, believing that if they work harder, try harder, or fight harder, they will finally achieve their desires. But they do not see that the very act of struggle reinforces the idea that they do not yet have what they seek, and so they remain in a state of lack, forever chasing what could be effortlessly assumed. The moment one ceases effort and simply accepts the work is done, this is not passivity, but the highest form of activity, an activity that takes place within rather than without. To assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the only action necessary, for from that assumption all things flow. The steps to its realization will unfold naturally, without strain, without effort, without doubt. The world may tell you that action is required, that you must plan, struggle, and toil to achieve. But this is the wisdom of men, not the wisdom of creation. True power lies not in doing, but in being. When you fully assume a state, your thoughts, actions, and experiences will all arise effortlessly from that assumption. You will find yourself taking the necessary steps without deliberation, meeting the right people without seeking, encountering the right opportunities without effort. Many misunderstand this and believe that assuming a state means to simply think about it or to wish for it. But assumption is not idle thought. It is a deep knowing, a conviction so strong that it leaves no room for doubt. It is the feeling of already being the person you desire to be, of already having the things you wish to possess. And once that state is assumed, action becomes unnecessary, for the world will move to confirm what is already true in consciousness. There is no need to force the seed to grow. It unfolds in perfect order, responding effortlessly to the conditions that support its development. Likewise, when a state is assumed, Life arranges itself around that assumption without resistance. The struggle only comes when one wavers between states, when one moves between belief and doubt, when one attempts to make things happen rather than accepting that they are happening. Effort is the language of those who do not yet believe. When a man knows a thing to be true, he does not struggle to prove it. He simply rests in the certainty of its reality. This is the secret to effortless creation. Do not fight against circumstances. Do not push against reality. Simply assume the state you wish to express, feel it deeply, and allow it to unfold naturally. The law is it requires no effort, no force, no struggle. Only the quiet certainty that what is felt within must be seen without. There is an art to listening, a power so profound that those who master it hold the key to transforming their world. But listening, as most understand it, is not the true act of hearing. Many believe they listen, but they do not. They hear words, but they do not absorb meaning. They hear sounds, but they do not allow them to reshape their consciousness. True listening is an act of creation, for whatever one listens to with full acceptance impresses itself upon the subconscious and must be expressed in form. To listen is not merely to hear, it is to receive. The words you accept, the beliefs you allow to take root, the messages you do not question, all become the fabric of your reality. You may believe that your world is shaped by chance, by effort, or by external circumstances. But in truth, it is shaped by what you have listened to and accepted as true. You are always listening whether you are aware of it or not. Every moment of your day, you are absorbing impressions, receiving messages, and allowing thoughts to enter your mind. The question is, what are you listening to? The world is filled with noise, voices that tell you what is possible and what is not, what you can achieve and what you cannot, what is real and what is fantasy. If you listen to the voices of limitation, if you accept the opinions of those who doubt, then you have passively surrendered your creative power. But if you choose instead to listen only to that which uplifts, that which confirms your desires, that which reinforces the reality you wish to experience, then you have taken control of your destiny. To listen consciously is to be selective. Not all words are worthy of attention. Not all messages deserve to be received. If you seek wealth but listen to those who proclaim scarcity, you are divided within yourself. If you desire success but listen to the voice of failure, you are weakening your assumption. The outer world will always reflect the inner conversation, and that conversation is determined by what you have listened to and accepted. Your subconscious does not discriminate. It takes whatever you feed it and brings it forth into your world. This is why many struggle, for they unknowingly listen to their doubts, their fears, and the opinions of others. They reinforce limitations without realizing it, simply by giving their attention to them. They allow external conditions to dictate their internal state, forgetting that the inner state is the cause and the outer is merely the effect. To transform life, one must first transform what they listen to. Instead of listening to the world's doubts, listen to the still, quiet voice within that tells you all things are possible. Instead of listening to past failures, listen to the feeling of already being the person you wish to become. Instead of listening to appearances, listen only to the truth that your assumption, once accepted, must become your experience. This is why repetition is so powerful. What you hear repeatedly becomes ingrained in consciousness, and once a thought is fixed, it hardens into fact. Those who understand this principle do not listen carelessly. They choose their words carefully, whether spoken or heard, and they allow only that which aligns with their desires to enter their awareness. They listen with purpose, knowing that what is impressed upon the mind must be expressed in the world. There is no effort in this, only attention. It does not require struggle, only awareness. The act of listening is effortless, yet its impact is immeasurable. If one listens each night to the sound of success, to the voice of abundance, to the feeling of already having, then that state is impressed deeply and must be realized in time. If one listens each morning to affirmations of possibility, to the certainty of fulfillment, then the day must unfold in alignment with that assumption. Few understand the power of passive listening, of allowing ideas to seep into the mind without resistance. The mind, especially in states of relaxation, is highly impressionable. This is why the moments before sleep are so crucial, for in that drowsy state, the conscious mind is quiet and the subconscious is open. What one listens to in those moments takes root deeply, beyond the reach of doubt. To listen is to accept, and to accept is to create. If you would change your life, change what you listen to. Refuse to give attention to anything that contradicts your desire. Ignore the voices of limitation. Turn away from the noise of doubt. Listen only to that which affirms, uplifts, and confirms the truth of your assumption. For what you listen to today, you will live tomorrow. The power is always in your hands, or rather, in your ears. Listen wisely, and your world will transform accordingly. Faith is not blind hope. It is not wishful thinking or an uncertain expectation of what may come. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It is the unwavering knowing that what is held in consciousness must externalize itself in the world of form. Faith is not belief in the possibility of a thing, but the certainty that it already is. It is the refusal to be swayed by appearances, the steadfast loyalty to an unseen reality that, through persistence, must become visible. The world conditions man to rely on what he can see, touch, and measure. It teaches that reality is fixed, that only what is already proven exists, and that all else is fantasy. But this is the great illusion, for everything that is now seen was once unseen. Every structure, every innovation, every achievement began as an idea, an assumption held firmly in the mind until it took form. Nothing exists outside of consciousness, and the only requirement for its expression is faith, the knowing that it is already true. To live by faith is to walk in confidence, not because of what the senses confirm, but because of what the mind has accepted as real. It is to persist in an assumption, even when the world contradicts it, to remain unmoved by circumstances that suggest otherwise. The moment one wavers, the moment doubt creeps in, the unseen reality begins to fade. It is not because it is untrue, but because faith has been withdrawn from it and given instead to the evidence of the senses. Everything in life is a test of faith, not faith in an external force, but faith in the creative power within. When one desires wealth yet continues to believe in lack, he is faithful to lack. When one longs for love yet assumes rejection, he is faithful to loneliness. Faith is not merely a virtue, it is a law. Whatever you are loyal to in your mind, whether wanted or unwanted, must express itself in your world. The question is not whether you have faith, but where you have placed it. Faith does not require effort. It does not strain, struggle, or attempt to make things happen. It simply knows that they are. If you were told that a friend had sent you a letter and that it was on its way, you would not question its arrival. You would not feel the need to check constantly, nor would you doubt its existence simply because you had not yet received it. You would go about your life, secure in the knowledge that what was promised is already in motion. This is how one must hold faith for all things, without anxiety, without desperation, but with quiet certainty. Doubt is the enemy of creation. It weakens the foundation of what is being built, causing cracks in the structure of belief. The mind that is divided cannot stand, for it moves between two states, never fully committing to either. To assume a thing in one moment and then question it in the next is to plant a seed and immediately uproot it. No harvest can come from such inconsistency. The moment faith is applied unwaveringly, without concern for time or circumstance, the unseen becomes seen. Many will say, "I have faith," but the true measure of faith is not in words, it is in action, in thought, in the quiet persistence of assumption. If one believes in abundance yet continues to act from fear of loss, his faith is in lack. If one believes in health, yet speaks constantly of illness, his faith is in disease. Faith is expressed not through empty affirmations, but through the unwavering commitment to a state of being. To strengthen faith, one must withdraw attention from appearances and place it solely on the desired reality. This is not denial, but transcendence. It is the recognition that what the senses report is merely the reflection of past assumptions, and that a new assumption, once made, will reshape the reflection. Faith is the refusal to be bound by what was, in favor of what is becoming. It is the ability to remain steadfast, even when reason protests, when logic argues, when the world presents no evidence. For the evidence exists, it simply has not yet reached the level of visibility. Faith is not a temporary state. It must be maintained until the assumption hardens into fact. It is not enough to believe in moments of inspiration and fall into doubt when tested. Faith must be consistent, unwavering, and absolute. It must become second nature, the unquestioned foundation upon which all things are built. To hold faith is to already possess, to claim a thing so fully that its absence is inconceivable. It is the key to creation, the bridge between the unseen and the seen, the law that governs all manifestation. When one understands faith in this way, effort ceases. The need to struggle, to strive, to prove disappears. The only requirement is persistence, loyalty to the unseen until it is seen. And when it does appear, one will not be surprised, for he has known all along that it was never a question of if, but only of when. There is no separation between you and the world you experience. The people you meet, the circumstances you encounter, the conditions that seem to arise independent of your will, all of it is nothing more than yourself pushed out. The outer world is but a reflection of the inner state, a mirror held up to reveal the assumptions and beliefs you have accepted as true. Nothing comes into your life uninvited. All things arrive by the power of consciousness. What you see externally is merely the projection of what you have accepted internally. Many believe themselves to be at the mercy of fate, subject to forces beyond their control. They look upon their experiences as random, their struggles as inevitable, and their successes as mere chance. But nothing is accidental. Every event, every encounter, every condition is drawn to you by the assumptions you hold. The world does not happen to you, it happens through you. If you would change your life, you must first change yourself. The mind in its conditioned state believes in separation. It sees itself as distinct from the world, as one person among many, as an individual navigating a universe outside of itself. But there is no external world apart from what is known within. Everything that appears outside of you is simply yourself, expressed in form. If you have ever wondered why certain patterns repeat, why the same experiences seem to return again and again, why people behave toward you in familiar ways, it is because they are only acting out the assumptions you have placed upon them. If you assume that life is difficult, you will encounter difficulty. If you believe that others are untrustworthy, you will meet those who deceive. If you accept limitation as your truth, you will see it reflected in every area of your life. These experiences are not imposed upon you by an external force. They are simply the outpicturing of your inner state. The world has no choice but to reflect what you believe. Many spend their lives trying to change circumstances, struggling against conditions they dislike, attempting to alter the behavior of others. But they do not realize that they are fighting shadows. The outer world is only a reflection, and a reflection cannot be changed directly. One does not alter a reflection by reaching into the mirror. One must change the original image. Likewise, if you wish to transform any aspect of your life, the only place to do so is within. The moment you assume a new state, the world begins to rearrange itself to confirm that assumption. If you persist in the belief that you are wealthy, the conditions of wealth will appear. If you remain steadfast in the assumption that you are loved, love will find its way into your life. If you hold firm to the idea that success is inevitable, all things will move to bring about that success. The law is precise and it does not fail. It is not a question of whether it works, but whether you will remain faithful to the unseen until it is seen. The greatest mistake one can make is to believe in appearances. The moment you react to what is seen, you give it power. You reinforce its reality by accepting it as true. But what is seen is only the residue of past thoughts, the manifestation of old beliefs. If you look upon lack and claim it as your condition, you have sealed it in place. If you witness conflict and react with fear, you have strengthened its grip upon you. The wise do not concern themselves with appearances, for they know that appearances are deceptive. They do not accept what the senses report unless it aligns with their desire. They remain faithful to the assumption they have chosen, knowing that the world must conform. Everything is a reflection, and every person you meet is yourself in expression. If someone treats you with kindness, it is because you have accepted kindness as your nature. If another behaves with hostility, it is because some belief within you has called it forth. This does not mean you must blame yourself for every unpleasant encounter, but rather that you must recognize the power you hold. You are not a victim of circumstances, you are their cause. If you do not like what you see, you need only change the assumptions from which you view the world. This is why no one needs to be persuaded, no one needs to be changed, and no condition needs to be fought. If you assume a new state, all things must move to reflect that state. You do not need to convince others to see you differently. They will do so naturally when you have changed within. You do not need to struggle to improve your environment. It will transform effortlessly as you assume the feeling of already having what you desire. The law is simple, yet few apply it consistently. They waver between states, believing in their desires one moment and doubting them the next. They allow circumstances to dictate their beliefs, reacting to what is seen instead of remaining firm in what is unseen. But those who persist, who refuse to be moved by appearances, who remain loyal to the assumption of their choice, these are the ones who mold reality to their will. The world is not outside of you, it is within you. It is shaped by your thoughts, molded by your beliefs, and governed by your assumptions. There is no force working against you, no power outside of you that determines your fate. You are the creator, the operant power, the sole architect of your experience. Change yourself, and the world must change. For there is no separation, there never was. The world is only yourself pushed out. There is nothing to change outside of yourself. For the outer world is only a mirror reflecting the assumptions you have accepted as true. Struggle is unnecessary, effort is futile when misplaced, and force is powerless against the law of consciousness. The only task before you is to assume the feeling of already having that which you desire and to persist in that assumption until it hardens into fact. Every moment you are shaping reality, whether consciously or unconsciously. Every thought you dwell upon, every belief you hold, every word you accept impresses itself upon the unseen and must be made manifest. To change your life, you must change your mind. To transform your circumstances, you must first transform the state from which you perceive them. Nothing is withheld from you except by your own unwillingness to assume its reality. Faith is loyalty to the unseen, to believe in what the senses deny, to remain steadfast in your assumption despite all evidence to the contrary, is the secret of all creation. You need not ask how or when. That is not your concern. The law is unfailing. It does not require your assistance, only your faith. If you persist, what was once invisible will become visible. What was once thought impossible will become inevitable, and what once seemed distant will be yours. You are not at the mercy of fate, nor are you bound by circumstances. You are the cause of all that you experience, the creator of every condition, the master of your reality. The world is yourself pushed out, and to change the world you need only change within. Assume the feeling of already being what you wish to be, and do not waver. Let the world rearrange itself around your conviction. Persist, believe, remain faithful, and watch as the unseen becomes seen, as the impossible becomes reality, as your desires take form before your very eyes.